If you're anything like me, you probably have lived through more than one crisis in your life. Um, I have lived through 9/11, which was a major crisis. I've also lived through the Hawaii ballistic missile scare, which was a very surreal and sobering experience on January 13, 2018. And now we're living through the coronavirus, and this truly is the crisis. And if there's one thing that I have learned is that life changes after a crisis happens. After 9/11, all of the airports, the screenings got a lot tighter, and it changed how we travel in our lives. In Hawaii, especially after the missile crisis, how they communicate, I'm sure, the missile, any kind of statewide emergency crisis, that's they've changed that as well too. And a lot of those things, they really affect our lives. These crises, they affect our lives. So on January 13, 2018, I was living in Hawaii, and I got this text message that hit my phone. And on that morning, when the text message came in, it was a sobering morning full of emotions. And at first, I thought it was a joke, and then I read the warning at the bottom that says, "Seek immediate shelter. This is not a test." And when you read something like that, something happens inside of you. About 30 minutes after the text came in, when it was uh, confirmed that the message was a mistake, boy, there was a sense of relief. And we kind of resumed the plans that we had for the rest of the day. And the one thing that I know is that when people got the text about the incoming message, in those moments when we didn't know that we were going to see another day, a tomorrow, in those moments we recalibrated our priorities and how we were going to live our lives. We stopped sweating the small stuff and we let bygones be bygones. We realized that in those moments, it's the relationships that we cherish are really the most important things in life. And in those moments, I know people who let go of resentment. In those moments, we were willing to forgive and make things right with people that were close to us. We expressed love, of course, to those who were close to us. And we learned to really pray earnestly. Now, sadly, all of those positive responses that took place in those fleeting moments, you know, um, after a while, they went away, and we reverted back to business as usual, which kind of really is sad, to be honest. And while we're not facing an imminent missile attack right now, we're still living through a crisis. And this one, unlike the missile scare, this crisis is real. People are actually dying from this crisis. It's a protracted crisis in that it's not going to end tomorrow or the next day. We're going to be dealing with this for a long time. And so, how is this changing us? Well, a couple things. Number one, we're learning about social distancing, right? And what it means to shelter in place, and maybe for a lot of you, you have to learn to work from home. And for most of others who have children, deal with your children 24 hours a day. You know what my hope and prayer is? That in this crisis, during the time of this crisis, that we take what we have learned from the missile scare crisis, and that is we let go of resentment, and we're willing to forgive and make things right with those that we have conflict with. And we use this time to really express love to those who are close to us, and we pray earnestly. I mean, I remember at the missile scare, I was praying the whole 30 minutes when I thought life was ending. And I have been brought back to a realization of how important prayer is, not just in times of crisis, but after. Now, when the crisis is over, when we go back to more of a normal way of life, I hope that these changes that we are talking about now take hold in our hearts. And I hope that we learn to live life to the fullest. I remember the first Sunday after the missile crisis in Hawaii, going back to church for the very first time and singing the song "Oh Happy Day." And I remember how I meant every single word of it. Worship became much more sincere for me. So during this coronavirus, I pray that our hearts are awakened and our faith is propelled in such a way that we would live our lives with a greater purpose and a deeper love and a sense of urgency. And it was during the final days of Jesus' life when he gave us the great commandment. And he said to us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And he told us that this was the first and the greatest commandment. And the second was like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And as we go through this crisis, that we would take this great command to heart and live it every single moment of our lives. God bless you.